The 5 alien students stood nervously outside Earth's Intergalactic Relations Academy. Each came from a different planet, and none had ever met a human before today. "Remember what they told us," said Tahoe, checking his data pad one more time. His blue skin shimmered in the morning sunlight. "Humans are from a death world. They are stronger than they look." Juwu nodded, her antenna twitching with excitement. "I've studied their culture for years, but meeting them in person," she hugged herself with all 4 arms. "I can't believe we're the first group in the Galactic Educational Exchange Program." Hyun stayed back, his protective scales tight against his body. "I heard they fight wars against each other. For fun." His voice was barely a whisper. "That's just stories," said Minho, the tallest of the group. His skin changed colors with his mood, now showing bright orange excitement. "Humans have been in space for only 80 years. They're still new to the galaxy." Duri adjusted her gravity boots. Being from a low-gravity world, she needed help to walk on Earth. "Their academic scores are impressive. That's why we're here, to learn from them." The academy doors slid open. A human male walked out, smiling wide. The aliens tried not to stare at his flat teeth. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Professor Shunho, your liaison for the exchange program." He bowed slightly. "We're honored to have the first alien students at our academy." Tahoe stepped forward. "We thank you for accepting us." He tried to copy the human's bow, but almost fell over. Professor Shunho laughed. "No need for that. Come inside. Let me show you around." The aliens followed him into the building. The halls were filled with humans of various colors and sizes. Some stared at the aliens, but most just nodded and continued walking. "The academy was built 50 years ago," explained Professor Shunho. "After humans joined the Galactic Council, we needed a place to teach intergalactic relations. This is now the top school in the solar system." They passed a large window. Through it, they could see small humans playing in an outdoor area. "What are those?" asked Hyun, pointing. Professor Shunho's face changed. The aliens noticed how his body shifted to stand between them and the window. "Those are children," he said, his voice different now. "Human young ones. They attend the elementary school connected to the academy." "Fascinating," said Tahoe, taking notes. "And those larger humans watching them." "Teachers and security staff," said Professor Shunho. His eyes constantly scanned the playground as he spoke. "Child safety is our highest priority." Juwu noticed something strange. All the human adults near the window had changed their posture. They seemed more alert, watching the aliens carefully. The group continued walking. They passed a room with a sign that read Nursery. Professor Shunho's pace quickened. "That's where our youngest children stay while their parents work or study here." Minho noticed a security scanner hidden in the wall. "Is that a weapons detector?" Professor Shunho nodded. "Yes. No one enters that area without proper clearance." "But why?" asked Duri. "Are your young in danger at a school?" A strange look crossed the professor's face. "We take no chances with our children. You'll learn that about humans very quickly." His voice was friendly but firm. He led them to their dorm rooms and explained the academy rules. After he left, the aliens gathered in Tahoe's room. "Did you notice how he changed when we were near the children?" asked Juwu. Tahoe nodded. All the humans did. Their body language shifted completely. "The security measures were impressive," said Minho. "More advanced than I expected for Earth technology." Hyun looked worried. "What are they protecting their young from? Each other?" Duri opened her datapad. "Perhaps we should study human protective behaviors. It seems important to understanding them." "Agreed," said Tahoe. "Tomorrow we begin classes with humans. Let's observe them carefully." None of the aliens realized that they had just discovered the most important thing about humans, something that would change how they saw the entire species. The truth about humans was not in their strength or their intelligence. It was in how far they would go to protect a child. Morning light shined through the windows as the 5 alien students entered their first class. Human students stared at them, some with wide eyes, others with friendly smiles. Professor Chunho waved them to empty seats near the front. "Today we begin cultural exchange studies," he said to the class. "Our guests will learn about humans, and we will learn about their species." Tahoe set up his data recorder. Humans fascinated him. Their soft skin had no natural protection, yet they came from a planet with dangerous animals and weather. How had they survived? A loud bell rang through the building. The human students didn't seem worried, but all 5 aliens jumped. "Just the period bell," said a human girl sitting next to Juwu. "It tells us when class starts and ends." Juwu nodded thanks, her 4 arms holding her books tightly. She noticed something odd. All the human teachers had moved closer to the doors and windows when the bell rang. They looked outside before returning to their desks. "Do all your schools have so much security?" asked Minho to the human boy beside him. The boy's skin was dark brown, which Minho found beautiful. His own skin currently matched the blue of his chair. "Security." The boy looked confused. "Oh, you mean the scanners and cameras?" "Yeah, all schools have those. For safety." As the morning classes continued, the aliens took notes on human behavior. They all noticed the same strange pattern. Every hour, a different human teacher would casually walk the hallways. They looked relaxed, but their eyes checked every corner. At lunchtime, the aliens sat together in the cafeteria. Through large windows, they could see the elementary school playground. Small human children ran and played while adults watched carefully from all sides. "Their security measures are impressive," said Hyun. His scales relaxed now that he felt safer. "Look at those adults. They stand so they can see all the children at once." Duri adjusted her gravity boots, and see how they position themselves between the playground and the street. They create a living wall. Tahoe was making a diagram. Each adult watches a different zone. There are no blind spots. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the kitchen. A tray had fallen. What happened next amazed the aliens. Every human adult in the room moved at once. Teachers stepped between the sound and the children. 2 security guards appeared from nowhere. In the playground, the adults outside pulled the children closer, turning to face the building. All this happened in seconds. Then, seeing it was nothing, they returned to normal. The humans acted like nothing unusual had happened. "Did you see that?" whispered Juwu. "They moved so fast." "Protective response," said Tayo, typing rapidly. "Faster than our species data on human reflexes suggested." After lunch, they had a free period. Professor Chunho showed them the library. As they walked past the elementary wing, they saw something new. 20 small children lined up against a wall. They were very quiet. A teacher checked a list, counting each child. "What are they doing?" asked Minho. "Fire drill," said Professor Chunho. "We practice what to do if there's danger." "How often do you have fires?" asked Hyun, concerned. "Almost never," replied the professor. "But we practice anyway, for all kinds of emergencies." The aliens watched as the children followed their teachers outside in perfect order. No one spoke. Even the smallest humans knew exactly what to do. "These are 4-year-olds, said Duri, checking her data. "How do they know the procedure so well?" "We start teaching safety when they're very young," said Professor Chunho, pride in his voice. "Every child knows what to do in an emergency." Later, in their dorm room, the aliens compared notes. "Humans spend much time and money to protect their young," said Tayo. "More than any species I've studied." "But from what?" asked Hyun. "I've seen no predators here." Juwoo's antenna twitched thoughtfully. "Perhaps the danger comes from other humans. Their history has many conflicts." "We should learn more," said Minho. "Tomorrow, let's ask about these drills and security systems." None of them realized that the next day would show them exactly why humans were so protective, in a way they never expected. "We have a special activity today," Professor Chunho announced to the alien students at breakfast. You'll join the third-grade class on their field trip to the Natural History Museum. Juwu clapped her 4 hands together with excitement. We get to go with the small humans. Yes, said Professor Chunho. It's a good chance to see more of our city and observe how we manage educational outings. 2 hours later, the aliens found themselves on a large yellow bus. 28 human children, aged 8 and 9, sat in pairs. 5 adult humans, 3 teachers, and 2 parents, spread out among them. Tahoe sat next to Hyun, watching everything. Notice how they counted the children 3 times before we left. Hyun nodded. And every child wears a bright yellow vest with a number. Easy to spot. From the front of the bus, a teacher stood up. Remember our buddy system, kids. Stay with your partner at all times. The children held up their wrists, showing matching colored bands. Each pair had the same color. Clever tracking system, whispered Duri to Minho. Each child is always connected to another. The museum was a large building filled with displays of earth animals, plants, and rocks. The aliens found it fascinating, but they found the humans even more interesting. As the children moved through the museum, the adults created a pattern around them. One teacher always led the front. One always watched the back. The others moved along the sides. Their eyes constantly scanned the area. Look at how they position themselves, Minho said quietly. They can see every child and every stranger who comes near. Juwu watched as a teacher quickly counted heads after they moved to a new room. She's done that 12 times in 1 hour. At lunchtime, the group sat in the museum cafeteria. The teachers checked all the children's food for allergies before letting them eat. A small boy named Kiwu suddenly stood up. I need to use the bathroom. I'll take you, said a male teacher immediately. He spoke into a small device on his wrist. Mr. Park taking Kiwu to restroom. Confirmed, replied a voice from another teacher's wrist. Tahoe raised his eyebrows. They track bathroom visits. Of course, said Professor Chunho. No child goes anywhere alone. After lunch, the group entered the dinosaur exhibit. The room was large and crowded with other visitors. The children gasped at the huge skeleton of a T-Rex. Then something happened. A small girl with pigtails wandered away from the group. She followed a light display on the floor, moving behind a large exhibit. The aliens watched, curious about what would happen. The reaction was instant. A teacher noticed first. She spoke quickly into her wrist device. Subin separated from group, moving east side of Dinosaur Hall. All adult heads turned. The other children were gathered into a tight group by 2 adults. The remaining adults spread out, moving with purpose. Within 7 seconds, the girl was spotted. I see her, said a parent helper calmly into her device. She approached the child slowly. Subin, remember your buddy. Yumna is looking for you. The girl looked up and nodded. The woman took her hand gently but firmly and led her back to the group. The aliens watched in amazement. The whole event lasted less than 20 seconds. Their response time is remarkable, said Tayo, checking his timer. No panic, just efficient action. Hyun looked thoughtful. It's like watching a military operation. Each human knows exactly what to do. But why? Asked Duri. What dangers are there in this museum? As they walked back to the bus, Minho approached Professor Chunho. Professor, I must ask, why are humans so protective of their young? What threats exist here? The professor's face grew serious. All species protect their children, don't they? Yes, said Minho, but not like this. Not with such intensity. Professor Chunho looked at the children boarding the bus, perhaps because we know what can happen when we don't. His voice was quiet. Human history has taught us harsh lessons. The aliens exchanged glances. There was something more to learn about humans, something important. And they would soon discover exactly what that was. The next morning, the 5 alien students met in the Academy Library. After 3 days on Earth, they had many questions about humans. I propose we make human protective behaviors our cultural research project, said Taiho, placing his data pad on the table. No other species we know acts quite like them. The others agreed quickly. Professor Shuno had told them they needed to choose a research topic by the end of the week. Where should we start? Asked Juwu, her antenna twitching with excitement. Historical records, suggested Duri. We need to understand why humans developed these behaviors. The library's computer system was easy to use. Soon, the aliens were reading through human history files. This is disturbing, said Hyun after an hour. His scales had turned a pale gray color. Humans have hurt their own young in the past. Wars, famines, diseases, and crimes, added Minho, his skin shifting to a somber blue. Some humans specifically targeted children. Juwoo's 4 arms hugged herself. How terrible. No wonder they're so protective now. Taiho was making notes. Look at this timeline. Human child protection laws became stronger every decade. Each bad event led to new safety measures. They found videos of human schools from different time periods. The oldest schools had few security measures. The newest ones had many. They learned from each tragedy, said Duri. They didn't accept that bad things happen. They tried to prevent them. At lunchtime, they observed the cafeteria again. Now they understood more about what they were seeing. The teachers watch for external threats, said Hyun, but also for problems between the children. Yes, said Minho. They call it bullying when one child is mean to another. They don't allow it. After classes, they interviewed Professor Chunho for their project. Why do humans invest so much in child safety? Asked Tao. Many species just have more offspring if some don't survive. The professor looked shocked. Each human child is precious, irreplaceable. But why? Pressed Duri. Humans can have many children. We could, agreed Professor Chunho. But each child is a unique person from birth. Our species believes in protecting the vulnerable. It's at the core of what makes us human. The aliens took notes. This was different from their home worlds, where young ones were often left to prove themselves. What about stranger danger? Asked Minho. We read about this concept. The professor nodded. We teach children to be careful around people they don't know. Some humans would harm children, so we prepare them. Is that why adults are so alert around children? Asked Juwu. Yes, said Professor Chunho. Most humans would risk their lives to save a child. Any child, not just their own. It's instinct for us. The aliens found this fascinating. On their worlds, parents protected their own young, but rarely others. Later that day, the aliens watched a class where small children learned safety rules. If you get lost, find a police officer, the teacher told them. Never go with a stranger, even if they seem nice. The children practiced saying no in loud voices. They learned to run away from danger and find help. Even the youngest humans learned defensive skills, whispered Tato to the others. That evening, as they compiled their research, an alert sounded on their data pads. Professor Chunho had sent a message. Tomorrow you're invited to observe the Academy's annual safety drill. All students and staff will participate. This will be valuable for your research project. The aliens were excited. A full-scale demonstration would help them understand human protective behaviors better. None of them knew that tomorrow's drill would turn out to be something very different, something that would show them the true nature of humans when children were in danger. The next morning started like any other day. The alien students ate breakfast in the cafeteria, watching human students and teachers go about their normal routines. The safety drill is scheduled for 10:30, said Tayo, checking his data pad. Professor Junho said we could observe from the administration office. I'm excited to see how their emergency systems work, said Duri, adjusting her gravity boots. At 9:45, they sat in their intergalactic relations class. The human students discussed trade agreements between Earth and other planets. Everything was peaceful. Then, at 9:58, something changed. A low hum filled the air. The building's lights flickered once, twice, then went out. Red emergency lights came on instead. "That's not part of the drill," whispered a human student nearby. "The drill isn't for another half hour." The classroom door opened. Professor Chunho entered quickly, his face serious. "Everyone stay calm," he said in a firm voice. "This is not a drill. We have an unauthorized ship that has landed on the East Field." The human students immediately sat straighter. No one panicked, but the aliens could see tension in their faces. "What kind of ship?" asked a human girl. "Unknown," said Professor Chunho. "Security is handling it. Please stay in the classroom until—" He was interrupted by a loud alarm. 3 short bursts, then a pause, then 3 more. The professor's face went pale. Code red. "Intruders have entered the building." The human students moved with surprising speed. They pushed desks against the door. 2 tall boys helped the professor barricade the windows. A girl turned off all electronic devices. The aliens watched in confusion. "What's happening?" asked Hyun, his scales flattening against his body in fear. "Intruders in the school," said a human boy next to him. "Stay down and stay quiet." Through the classroom window, the aliens could see part of the playground. Teachers were quickly moving children from the elementary school into a central building. Then they saw them. 3 tall figures in dark armor. They moved with purpose toward the elementary school. "Draviks," whispered Juwoo in horror. "Those are Dravik raiders." The other aliens gasped. Draviks were known throughout the galaxy as dangerous criminals who captured and sold sentient beings. "They're heading for the children," said Minho, his skin turning white with fear. The human students saw them too. A strange change came over them. Their faces hardened. Several of them moved toward the door. "No," said Professor Chunho firmly. "You stay here. The security team will handle this." But through the window, they could see that the security guards were already down. The Draviks had stunned them with some kind of weapon. The aliens watched as the raiders reached the elementary school entrance. They were using a device to force the door open. "They're going after the children," said Taiho quietly. "But why? Earth is protected by the Galactic Council. Taking humans is illegal." "Draviks don't care about laws," said Duri. "They sell to buyers in the outer systems." Inside the classroom, something was happening. The human students were gathering objects. Scissors, heavy books, chairs. The professor was on a small device, speaking quickly. "Code red in elementary wing. 3 hostiles. Security is down. Activate Protocol 7. He put the device away and turned to the class. His eyes were different now. Cold. Focused. "The elementary school security doors will hold for 3 minutes at most," he said. "Campus police are 10 minutes away." The human students nodded, understanding what this meant. "U5. Professor Chunho said to the aliens, 'Stay here. This room is secure.'" "What are you going to do?" asked Juwoo, her 4 hands trembling. The professor picked up a heavy metal pointer from his desk. Other human teachers were now running across the courtyard toward the elementary building. "What we must," he said simply. "They will not take our children." As he left the room, the aliens looked at each other in confusion and fear. They were about to witness something none of them had expected to see. The 5 alien students couldn't stay in the classroom. They had to see what would happen. "We should help," said Minho, his skin flashing anxious colors. "How?" asked Hyun. "We are not fighters. But we can watch," said Taiho. "And record. The galaxy should know what happens here." They slipped out of the classroom and moved to a 2nd-floor window overlooking the elementary school courtyard. From there, they could see everything. The 3 Dravik raiders had forced open the first set of doors. They were working on the second barrier, their tools cutting through the metal. Behind those doors were 30 young human children. What happened next would stay in the aliens' memories forever. Professor Chunho and 7 other teachers approached the raiders from different directions. They carried no real weapons, just items from their classrooms. One had a chair, Another held a fire extinguisher. A female teacher gripped a baseball bat from gym class. The raiders noticed them and laughed. One Drevik turned and fired a stun weapon. The beam hit a young male teacher, who fell to his knees. But he didn't stay down. To the alien's shock, the human teacher forced himself back up. His body shook with pain, but his eyes remained focused. No one hit with a Drevik stunner had ever stood up again so quickly. "Get away from those children," said Professor Chunho in a voice the aliens barely recognized. It was low, dangerous, like nothing they had heard from a human before. The lead Drevik turned. "Stand aside, humans. We take what we want. We have weapons. You have nothing." Professor Chunho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "We have nothing. We have everything to lose. Those are our children." The raiders looked confused by this response. One raised his weapon again. He never got to fire it. The female teacher with the baseball bat moved with shocking speed. She swung the bat into the raider's arm with such force that the weapon flew away and the Drevik howled in pain. At the same moment, Professor Chunho and the others charged. The aliens watched in amazement. These were not the calm, friendly humans they had known for the past days. These were something else entirely. Professor Chunho dodged a Dravik's punch and struck back with his metal pointer. The hit was precise, targeting a weak spot in the raider's armor. Another teacher sprayed a fire extinguisher into a raider's face mask, blinding him. "They're so fast," whispered Juwu. "How are they so fast?" Duri checked her scanner. "Their heart rates and adrenaline levels are off the charts. They're exceeding normal human physical limits." The Drevik raiders clearly had not expected this kind of resistance. They were bigger than humans and had better armor. But they were losing. One raider tried to retreat. Two human teachers cut off his path. When he turned to run another way, he found more humans there. The elementary school staff had formed a complete circle around the invaders. "They're trapping them," said Hyun in awe. "Just like they positioned themselves around the children, but in reverse." The last raider went down under the combined attack of 3 teachers. Professor Chunho stood over the Drevik leader, holding the alien's own stun weapon. "You made a mistake," he told the fallen raider. "The worst mistake possible." The raider groaned. "We did not know this was a military school." Professor Chunho shook his head. "It's not. We're just teachers." "Impossible," said the Drevik. "No normal beings fight like this." "We're parents and teachers," said the professor. "And you threatened our children." The aliens watching from the window finally understood. "It's not training," said Taho quietly. "It's not technology or weapons. It's love," said Juwu. "They love their children so much they become something else when they're threatened." As security forces finally arrived to take the raiders away, the aliens saw the human teachers transform again. Their fierce expressions softened. They comforted crying children, checked each other for injuries, and calmly gave reports to officials. It was as if the terrifying warriors of moments ago had vanished, replaced once more by gentle teachers. But the aliens now knew the truth. They had seen what humans would do to defend children, and it had changed everything they thought they knew about humanity. 2 hours after the attack, the academy was filled with officials. Galactic security officers questioned the staff. Medical teams checked everyone for injuries. Parents arrived to take their children home early. The 5 alien students sat in Professor Chunho's office, waiting. They still couldn't believe what they had seen. "I've studied 17 sentient species," said Tayo, reviewing his datapad. "None of them can increase their physical abilities like humans did today." "The female teacher with the bat," said Minho, his skin now a thoughtful purple. "She lifted a Drevik with one arm. Their armor weighs at least 60 kilograms. Impossible by human strength standards," agreed Duri. "I checked the records 3 times. The door opened, and Professor Chunho walked in. His clothes were torn. A cut on his face had been bandaged, but he looked calm now. "Are you all right?" he asked the aliens. "I'm sorry you had to see that." Sorry, said Juwu, her antenna twitching with confusion. You saved those children. The professor sat down heavily in his chair. Yes, but violence is not what we wanted to teach you about Earth. We have many questions, said Hyun, his scales now a curious green color. How did you defeat 3 armed Draviks? They've conquered entire military outposts. Professor Juno smiled slightly. We had something to protect. Taho connected his data pad to the office screen. I recorded the entire incident. May we review it for our research? The professor nodded, and they watched the fight again. With the danger past, they could now study what had happened more carefully. Look here, said Taho, pausing the video. Your heart rate was 174 beats per minute. Your muscle output exceeded normal human limits by 50%. The professor looked at the data with interest. Adrenaline. The human body can do amazing things when needed. But all of you fought this way, said Duri. Every teacher. How is that possible? As I told the Dravik, said Professor Chuno, we're parents and teachers. There's nothing we wouldn't do to protect children. A security officer knocked and entered the office. Professor, we need your final statement. The Draviks are being transported to the Galactic Security Center. Why did they target this school? Asked Minho. The officer looked grim. Human children bring high prices in some parts of the galaxy. Some think humans have special abilities. They wanted to take them while they were young. After the officer left, the aliens sat quietly, thinking about what this meant. The galaxy knows so little about humans, said Juwu finally. They know you come from a high-gravity planet. They know you have good technology. But they don't know. Don't know what? Asked Professor Shuno. That your true strength isn't in your bodies or your weapons, said Juwu. It's in how much you care for your young. The professor smiled. That's a very insightful observation. Later that evening, the alien students gathered in their dorm. Classes had been canceled for the next day. The academy was reviewing all its security measures. We need to add today's data to our research project, said Taho. This changes everything we thought we knew about humans. The way they transformed was amazing, said Hyun. One moment, they were normal teachers. The next moment, warriors, finished Minho. Fiercer than any soldier I've seen. What should we tell our homeworlds? Asked Duri. Should we warn them about humans? Juwu looked thoughtful. Not warn. Inform. Humans aren't dangerous, unless you threaten their children. I've decided to change our project title, said Taho, typing on his datapad. The new title is The Human Protection Response, the galaxy's most powerful defense system. The others agreed this was perfect. None of them knew that their research would soon change how the entire galaxy viewed humans, and that it would give Earth a new and important role in galactic affairs. 1 week after the Dravik attack, the alien students were invited to the Galactic Embassy in the city. Their research had caught the attention of important officials. I can't believe the Galactic Council wants to see our project, said Juwu as they rode in a hover car to the embassy. Her antenna twitched with excitement. They're very interested in what happened at the academy, said Professor Shuno, who was accompanying them. The Draviks have attacked many schools on different planets, but this is the first time they've been defeated by unarmed teachers. The embassy was a tall, shining building with flags from 100 worlds. Inside, representatives from many species waited in a large meeting room. Welcome, students, said Ambassador Lorix, a tall Xanthurian with silver skin. Your report on human protective behaviors has raised many questions. Taho stepped forward with their data. Thank you for seeing us. We believe our findings are important for galactic understanding. The room darkened, and their research appeared on large screens. The alien students took turns explaining what they had learned about humans. Humans are known as Deathworlders because Earth has high gravity, dangerous animals, and extreme weather, explained Duri. But that's only part of the reason humans are strong. The true source of human strength is their protection response, said Hyun, showing videos from the attack. When their children are threatened, Humans can exceed their normal physical limits. The ambassadors watched in silence as the footage showed teachers fighting the armed raiders. "This is remarkable," said an Alterian representative. "We've classified humans as mid-level threats in the galaxy. Perhaps we need to reconsider." "Not threats," corrected Minnow quickly. "Protectors. Humans don't want to fight. They want to defend." Ambassador Lorix studied the data carefully. "For centuries, we've known that humans were physically stronger than they appeared. We thought it was just their dense muscles and high-gravity adaptation. It's more than that," said Juwu. "Human protective instinct changes their body chemistry. They produce extra adrenaline and other hormones when defending others, especially children." Tahoe showed more data on the screen. "Our most important finding is this. No successful abduction of human children has ever occurred when other humans were present." The room filled with murmurs of surprise. "Is this true?" asked a Neptulian ambassador. Professor Chunho nodded. "Our statistics confirm it. When humans see a child in danger, they will do anything to protect them, even at the cost of their own lives." Ambassador Lorix looked troubled. "This explains many failed missions to Earth throughout history. Several species attempted to collect human specimens, particularly young ones. None succeeded. Now we know why," said another ambassador. "They faced the strongest force in the galaxy, human parents." After the presentation, the council members discussed among themselves. Finally, Ambassador Lorix approached the students. "Your research has changed our understanding of humans," he said. "For too long, we viewed Earth as just another developing world. We now see that humans have a special ability we need in our galaxy." "What ability?" asked Hyun. "The ability to protect the vulnerable at any cost," replied Lorix. "Many species in our galaxy cannot defend themselves. They need guardians." The alien students looked at each other in surprise. They had not expected this outcome. "Are you suggesting that humans could serve as protectors for other species?" asked Tayo. "Exactly," said Ambassador Lorix. "The Galactic Council will propose a new role for Earth. Humans will be offered the position of Galactic Guardians, with special focus on protecting developing worlds and their young." Professor Chunho looked stunned. "This is a great honor. Earth has only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Sometimes the newest members have the most to teach us," said Lorix. "Your students have shown us what we've been missing." As they left the embassy, the alien students felt proud. Their simple research project had changed humanity's place in the galaxy. "I never expected this," said Dury. "We came to study humans, but we ended up helping them find their true purpose among the stars. What began as a school project would soon change the future of Earth and the galaxy forever." 6 months had passed since the Dravik attack. The Academy looked the same, but much had changed. New security systems protected the buildings. More importantly, Earth's role in the galaxy had transformed. On their last day at the Academy, the 5 alien students gathered in the garden with Professor Chunho. Tomorrow they would return to their homeworlds. "I can't believe our exchange year is almost over," said Juwu, her 4 arms holding a collection of small gifts from human students. "So much has happened," agreed Hyun. His scales now stayed a relaxed green color around humans, showing how comfortable he had become. Professor Chunho smiled at his alien students. "You 5 have changed the galaxy's view of humanity. Our ambassadors are now on 12 worlds that asked for human protection." Tahoe nodded. "My home world of Blorks has requested human teachers for our schools. They say no one protects children better." After their research spread through the galaxy, many planets had reached out to Earth. Some wanted humans to train their security forces. Others asked for human families to live among them, bringing their protective instincts to worlds where children had been vulnerable. "The Galactic Guardian program has already saved lives," said Minnow, his skin glowing with happy colors. 3 human teachers stopped raiders on Zenturia last month. "Just like our teachers did here," said Dury. Professor Chunho looked proud. "Humans have always been this way, but we never thought our protective nature was special. We assumed all species would fight to defend children. Some do, said Juwu, but not like humans. You would give your lives without hesitation. It's the highest calling we know, said the professor simply. A bell rang, and children from the elementary school ran out for recess. The alien students watched them play, seeing them differently now. These small humans were so precious that an entire species would fight to the death for them. We've adopted some of your protective measures on my world, said Hyun. We never had safety drills before. Now we do. My people have changed too, said Duri. We used to leave our young alone to toughen them. Now we stay closer, like humans do. Professor Chunho looked at his watch. It's time for the ceremony. The principal is waiting. They walked to the academy's main hall. Human students filled the seats. At the front stood the principal and several officials from Earth government. The 5 alien students took their places on the stage. Today we honor 5 visitors who taught us as much as they learned, said the principal. Their research has given Earth a new purpose among the stars. Each alien student received a medal. But there was something else, something more important. A small human girl approached each of them. Around their wrists, the children tied colorful braided bands. What is this? Asked Minho, looking at his blue and green band. Protection bands, explained Professor Chunho. By our oldest traditions, these mean you are under human protection forever. Wherever you go in the galaxy, if you show this band to any human, they will defend you as they would a child. The aliens were stunned. This was the highest honor humans could give. We don't know what to say, said Tayo, touching his band carefully. You showed the galaxy who we really are, said the principal. Not just strong because of our world, but strong because of what we value. Later, as they packed their things, the aliens talked about everything they had learned. When we first came to Earth, I was afraid of humans, admitted Hyun. I thought they were dangerous. They are dangerous, said Minho, but only to those who threaten the innocent. I think that's the lesson we learned, said Juwu. True strength isn't about fighting. It's about what you're willing to fight for. As their ship prepared to leave Earth the next day, the 5 aliens looked down at the blue planet below. They now understood the truth about humans. They weren't just inhabitants of a death world who had grown strong to survive. They were protectors who had found their place in the galaxy, defending those who couldn't defend themselves. And that made humans the most valuable allies any species could have. The end.